Shadow Shorts. If we've never met before, my name is Jeff Echols, and I am a senior advisor and the head of marketing for Shadow Partners. Every weekday, I bring to you a conversation with an expert or a thought leader in the realm of innovation for the built environment. Today is no different. I am joined by a doctor today. I feel completely underqualified for
Not a
this
medical doctor. I
conversation.
got to make that caveat. So don't send me any kind of health issues.
That's all right. Yeah. What we will share in this conversation today is not qualified health recommendations, but I'm joined today by Dr. Joseph or Joe Burgett. I don't know if I didn't even ask you before we went live if I pronounced that
I,
correctly.
I go by a lot. Burgett is how my father told me. Burgett is how my father said, but I get Burgett,
Okay.
Burgetti, Burget. I get a lot.
All right. So Dr. Joe is
There you go.
with us
There you
today.
go.
He is an associate professor at Clemson. He teaches MEP, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineering, and also focuses on drones in construction. We've had a good conversation here before we got started, including the Drone Racing League and everything else. But we're going to have a lot of fun with this conversation today about drones in construction. So, Joe, thank you for joining me. And what do we need to know, or what's uh, you're talking a minute ago? Let me back it up half a step. You were talking a minute ago about the progress that's happened since 2016 in terms of drones, whether or
Yeah.
not they're on construction sites, just in general,
Yeah.
and then what you see in the future. So why don't we start there? What have you seen in the last few years, and where's it headed?
Sure. So, well, first, Jeff, thanks for having me on. I'm certainly enjoyed our conversation before, and I'm excited about where we're going to take it in the next little bit. But yeah, so one of the things that people don't really realize is that drones, while they have been around, especially in the military arena, for a long time, but for the commercial side, this is really brand new stuff. Prior to 2016, as you mentioned, there really wasn't any kind of standardized regulations to be able to use drones domestically for commercial operations. So, with for almost everything, with just a few exceptions, drones were grounded and we couldn't use it. Then, in 2016, Part 107 was released, and that's the rules that really opened the sky up, figuratively and literally, for commercial drone uses. And very reasonable rules that were put in place about how high you can fly. You have to maintain visual line of sight and things at night, and various reasonable rules that really were mostly common sense, but allowed drones to be used for commercial operations. They really were the law of the land, still are. A few years or so ago, maybe 2, 3 years or so ago, they updated them a little bit, made flights over people possible and operations at night possible without waivers. That was a big change. The technology in terms of hardware and software has just kept getting better and better and better since that time. And as just like all technology is just a non-linear pace, just exponentially getting better. We've gotten commercially available drones. They can stay in the air for 30 plus minutes. Incredible cameras on there, credible sensors, infrared cameras that used to cost $20,000 are now five. LiDAR that was $100,000 is now 20. Multispectral for agriculture. So a lot of things have changed in a very short period of time, and the industry is struggling to catch up, but we're catching up, and those who are embracing it are seeing a lot of benefits from it. So,
Yeah.
moving forward, I don't know, man. I'm really excited about where the technology is going to move forward. From the regulatory side, a big thing that's happening that will happen in the next year or two, it really is coming, is a new set of regulations that will allow beyond visual line of sight. And with that may not be a big deal for a contractor or an engineer or a surveyor who's going to be on the site anyway. But I'll give you a use case. If the civilian calls 911 for an emergency, that operator picks up the phone and then hits the go button, and a drone is launched and goes and parks right over top where that cell phone is until police show up. So that's just one of the many use cases that we can't do now without waivers and things, but are in the future coming at big advantages.
Yeah, yeah, that's really amazing. And you mentioned, that that's a use case that, like you said, it may not be for the contractor, so to speak. But what are you seeing in the field? And you're at Clemson University, like I said, and you're teaching in the construction arena, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire protection, or some of the classes, the required classes
Yeah,
that you
those are the ones
that
that they need to have. They don't have to take drone classes, but they like to.
exactly. Yeah. So, what are you seeing in the field, in the on a construction site, on a day to day? I'm
Yeah,
sure this is changing and growing all the time, but
yeah. Okay, yeah. So let me cut there because I think your mic actually cut, but I got most of your question there. So there's a couple of the key use cases, and I should start off by saying a drone is a data collection tool. I mean, they're fun to fly and all this, but at the end of the day, it's we need to collect data to make better decisions. All right. um, Base use case, like the entry level, and I don't want to take anything away from it. It's powerful, it's great. Is just marketing, right? So videos and still images
got
of
it. Yeah.
unique vantage points, and your marketing people will love it, and that's great. And I don't want to take anything apart from that. But that's just like the entry level. All right, that's really not a full fledged use case. One of the things that we see people do is live stream. Again, we're still in the flying camera mode. So if you got critical pics or critical, aspects going on, you live stream that out to an offsite team. So that's very useful. Photogrammetry. Photogrammetry means you, by definition, taking measurements from photography. In drone world, we take hundreds, if not thousands, of images of a site, and it's all autopilot. So the drone just flies a big lawnmower pattern, and we just watch it. It's quite boring, actually, but it captures hundreds, if not thousands, of pictures, and we take that data and then we put it in the software, and the software sees similar pictures. Embedded in the pictures is the metadata, like where the image was, where it was taken, the angle of the camera, cardinal direction, all that kind of stuff. Puts all that together and makes a 3D digital twin. That's super powerful because, one, documenting your site, and you do it every week or whatever. You turn this over to the owner at the end of the job and say, look, here's a digital twin of your job for every week that you now have for 50 years. If you ever want to go back and know where those underground utilities were, we can show you sub-inch accuracy. Big. And if anything were to go wrong, and all the things that goes on in the contractor's mind, you have that history to look into it. Also, it's a really cool, I mean, this is kind of simple, but not every owner will go out to the site every week, but every owner's got a boss. So you send them a 3D model of your site, they get to see it. They get to spin around, zoom in on things. Hey, what's going on here? What's going on? Oh, I like, whatever they're going to do. And it's just a link. And then they can forward that link to their boss, and their boss is never going to come to the site, but now their boss can see it. And if a picture worth 1,000 words, then what's a 3D model worth? So a lot of value there. Again, I can go to tons of examples of when things go wrong, silt fence blowout or whatever, and you can document that we were doing things right up until blah blah blah. The other thing that is a really kind of an edge case, for not edge case, but a new perimeter of where contractors are using drones, is thermography. And again, as I said before, it used to be super expensive, but a decent thermal drone now is $5,000, which is not nothing, but it's not what it was. And with thermography, you can do really cool things, like when insulation in walls has fallen down, you can see it because the heat transfers differently. When water gets behind ephes or membranes, you can see it before it's molding up and everything on the inside. If you've got those argon gas filled windows that you spend high dollars on them for energy efficiency, argon's an invisible gas. When it leaks out, how do you know? Well, you put a thermal camera. One of those windows is red. All the other ones are blue.
Okay.
And a whole bunch of quality control things in games you can play with them. So
Yeah.
those are some leading cases.
Yeah, that's amazing. And like you said, I think as we look into the future, it only gets more powerful and less expensive, et cetera. So as contractors, if I'm a contractor watching right now, seeing this video, and maybe I've dipped my toe into the water, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
and I've got some simple version or more simple version of a drone, but I know that I want to and I need to get deeper into it. What do I need to be planning for as I look? We're in the middle of 2023 right now, so
Yeah.
what do I need to be planning for as I look towards the end of the year, towards 2024,
Yep.
projects that are coming up, that we'll break ground on here maybe early in 2024. What's my next step
Yep.
in drone technology and drone use?
Yeah. So if you're looking to deploy this and to bring this into your company, there's a couple of things that you really got to know. First of all, first and foremost, if you're going to fly drones commercially, which is if you're listening to this call, that's you. You need to have a license, and that
Yeah.
sounds scary. It's not. There's what's called a Part 107 knowledge test. It's an FAA exam, and then once you pass it, you get a remote pilot certificate. Now, if you were to go off the street and take this test, you'd likely fail. But there's a plenty of places that for $200-300 you can do an online prep course and pass that exam. So that's like base. Okay. Now we were talking about this before. It's a knowledge test. It's the only license that I can think of where you can be fully licensed, but have never demonstrated your ability to actually do the thing that you are now licensed to do. There's no practical component. So that's a whole. What we do at Clemson, we have some, we do professional development, and when we do that, we bring contractors in. We set them up. We get them to pass the Part 107 exam, and then we do flight training, and we start with a simulator where we mail our online class. Our professional development classes are actually online, if you can believe that, for a drone class, but they are. Because again, it's about data collection and data processing, not necessarily about flying drones. But we mail you a controller, and then you practice on the simulator. And then I would recommend for contractors to get their APSA BPERP certification. Time is limited, but I will say it's the only nationally recognized flight certification that credentials you to have a minimum proficiency in operating a multi-rotor UAS. Kind of complements the Part 107. It's a third-party reputable organization that offers it. I would then also learn photogrammetry. There's lots of tools that are out there. Pix 4D, Bentley context capture, drone to map, drone deploy is what we teach at Clemson Drone. Those are all tools to be able to take a bunch of drone images and create those 3D models I was telling you about. And then thermography, that's another piece, which it's not like the old Predator movies from the 80s, right? Where red, hot, blue, cold. I mean, there's a grain of truth in there. It's great movies, but you need to know the science behind that. So you need some education on how you actually read thermograms, and so you don't embarrass yourself and say, we got a problem over here. And no, you don't. There's not a real problem, or miss a problem, or a legitimate problem, and you miss it. So I would say those are some of the key things. I guess it all kind of starts with licensure and then training to be able to actually get the most out of it. Hardware. If I were to budget something, this is a wild number here, right? But if I were to budget something, I would say for hardware, insurance, we'll use the Clemson Drone online class as an example, and your license, it's about a $10,000 start to get into the game, to do it really the right way.
Okay, that's great. And Joe mentioned Clemson Drone. The URL is in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen right now. It's pretty self-explanatory.
You're trying to
ClemsonDrone.com.
make it simple, yeah.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Don't make me think too hard here. ClemsonDrone.com is where you can go and sign up for those courses and of course, learn more about getting into the game, as Joe said. Now, if you're watching this right now and you go, wow, that's really cool. It's really interesting to hear where this is headed, job site, law enforcement, civil protection, et cetera. I would encourage you to think about an event that we have coming up in October. It's our 7th annual Shadow Summit. It will be in Atlanta, Georgia, October 24th through 26th. We're going to spend 2 days having much longer and deeper conversations like these. We're going to talk about housing. We're going to talk about AI and machine learning. We're going to talk about industrialized construction. It's really a deep dive into innovation, and especially technical and technology innovation for the built environment. It's sort of the theme for this year. KP Reddy, the CEO of Shadow Partners, has described Shadow Summit 2023 as Cliff Notes version of everything that's happened in terms of innovation for the built environment this year, and a preview of what's going to happen, what you need to plan for, what you need to budget for. And Joe did a great job of giving you a budget for your getting into the drone game, but everything you need to budget for in terms of technology and innovation for the built environment. Looking forward to 2024. So if you want to know more about that, go to shadowsummit.com. And if you want to, we also, I guess I need to thank a couple of our sponsors. Schneider Electric and the National Institute of Building Sciences are both Shadow Summit sponsors this year. If you want to be one of those, if you want to be front and center in those conversations, reach out to me on LinkedIn, which is probably where you're seeing this now. And we can talk more about that. But go to shadowsummit.com. Tickets are limited. It is a purposefully intimate occasion, maximum of 200 tickets. And a lot of those tickets are already spoken for. So go to shadowsummit.com, go to the top of the page and hit the button to apply to attend. And we can get you into the conversations in Atlanta this month. And again, go to clemsondrone.com if you want to know more about working with Clemson. And I think that's really amazing that you actually send the controllers out, you mail them out so that I can do the course online there.
Yeah, that sim is really good. We got again, it's a lot cheaper to crash a pixel than it is an actual real drone. So
That's a
I
really
might be
good
the only
point.
flight instructor that tells you fly as close as you can to that object until you crash, and the next time just back it away a little bit.
Nice. I like that. You don't fly commercial planes, do you?
No. Different scenario there.
Yeah, just making sure there. All right. Well, Joe, thank you very much for this conversation. It's been super interesting. And I know there's a lot more. This is Shadow Shorts. We could continue this conversation for an hour or more, but I hope that
Sure.
everybody got a nice little taste and some really good information about what it takes to get into flying drones, especially for the construction industry. So, Joe, thanks so much for this conversation.
Jeff, thank you. It was great. It was great fun. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you watching, thank you for joining us today. I'll be back tomorrow with another Shadow Short and another expert or thought leader in the realm of innovation for the built environment. So, see you tomorrow at noon Eastern. Thanks, everybody. Hey, welcome back to Shadow Shorts. If we've never met before, my name is Jeff Echols. I am a senior advisor and the head of marketing for Shadow Partners. And every weekday, I bring to you a short conversation with an expert or thought leader in the realm of innovation for the built environment. And today is no different. I am joined today by Danielle Dy Buncio. She is the co-founder and the CEO of VIATechnik. And I have had the opportunity to talk with Danielle about certainly about things technical, certainly about things in the realm of BIM and all of the things that AEC firms use to deliver their designs, et cetera. But recently, we were talking about the people, right, and how innovation and technology affects the people, and um, the people are a big part of the equation. And so I thought maybe we could jump into a conversation about not only innovation and technology, but the people
Yeah,
related to innovation and technology in the AEC and built environment. So Danielle, thank you for joining me and welcome. Glad you're
of
here.
course. Yeah, thanks for having me, Jeff. Excited to be here.
Excellent. So you're based in Chicago. We were reminiscing about Chicago things before we went live. Um, when you look out across the landscape, of course, you and Via Technic, you're just immersed in technology and new technology, emerging technology. But as you were telling me, there are things like culture of innovation, and there are things like knowledge transfer, and how we're going to progress through the next generations in applying this technology and what it's going to mean. So, as you look across the landscape, what's your biggest concern about technology and the people that are involved?
Yeah. So as I look across the landscape, VIATechnik's in an interesting position because we're hyper focused on the built environment, on the construction, the real estate industries, and how those industries use technology to advance their business outcomes. So as I look across the landscape and get that pulse on like what the owners care about, what general contractors
Mhm.
care about, over and over and over again, comes up, one of the industry's biggest problems right now is labor, is our people. And it's really interesting because I think when you talk to the C-suite at these companies across the industry, and maybe it's, even outside of our industry, and you start to ask, what's your greatest asset? What's your competitive advantage, right? What differentiates you from your competitors? It's the people.
Right.
But then if you ask a CEO, like what keeps them up at night, especially in the construction industry right now, it's also the people. And we are almost at this like precipice where some of the challenges in the industry is facing with people are like coming to a head. It's not sustainable, right? Like we have a labor shortage. And then compounding that labor shortage, we have an aging and like soon to be retiring workforce, right? And so that labor problem is going to only get more challenging. And so, from my perspective, I think it's time that the industry start thinking differently about how to solve those challenges, right? I think I think initiatives around recruiting the right people to the industry, recruiting the next generation, recruiting diverse talent, diverse ideas to the industry are vital, right? But that's almost like the baseline. And I think that now what needs to be added to that conversation is how technology can be used to solve some of those people problems. Um, and like happy to dive into that, but wanted to pause and see some of your thoughts first.
I think those are great points, and when we think about the technology, one of the things that comes up all the time, AI is sort of everybody wants to talk about AI. KP Reddy, who's the CEO of Shadow Partners, is I
Okay, Jeff, I lost your sound for a second here.
sorry, my mic cut out there again.
No problem.
Um, KP Reddy, who's the CEO of Shadow Partners, I get to field a request, and he gets requests probably once a week, once every other week, to come and talk to some group about AI. And a lot of people, as we know, are looking, they look at the OpenAI and or Chat GPT
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the tools that are out there, and they're wondering, is my job going to get replaced? Are architects or engineers, et cetera, are they going to become irrelevant because of AI? So that's um, an easy thing to wonder about. But if we're looking at these things as tools and thinking about how our people can use these tools, as you're looking at it and saying, okay, well, these are the tools we build at VIATechnik. These are the things that we use. How do you think specifically about the technology and how people are using the technology and what the future of those people is?
So I can speak to the technology more broadly, but to hit on your AI point first, I view AI as an opportunity to augment our people.
Okay.
And I think one thing that AI can really be used for is really powerful is decision making, right? And as we navigate our careers in the built environment, if you distill down what we're doing like every day, right, it's making a decision, right? Like, what's my sequencing for my construction project? A change happens. And this is an important one, right? Like a change happens. How do I react to that effectively? And so a big thing for VIATechnik is this idea of through data, through digital workflows, empowering our clients to make high quality, high velocity decisions, right? And the impact that making better, faster decisions can have on our industry is huge. AI can help us do that. And I think that in the context of the labor shortages, it's actually really powerful to start to think about how do you get more from your people by augmenting them with AI.
Mhm.
So I think it's something that companies should start to educate themselves on, should start to, build awareness, but also not be afraid of it. Um, And I think what's really important for companies in the construction industry today is to start to build the foundation such that they can take advantage of AI properly. Like, you're not going to get there without having a really good data foundational layer. And so when we integrate into our projects and into our clients' companies, it's often around how do we digitize workflows that maybe historically were analog. As they're digitized, how do you start to like connect that data, visualize it, analyze it, and get insights from it? When you're moving from data to insights, then how do you take action from it? Because that's the big thing, right? Like, if it's telling you and helping you with decisions, but you don't actually make the decision, right? Or if you don't learn how to move faster or move differently, it's not going to have that impact. So today I encourage people to think about it, just to kind of recap, as like an augmentation tool for our people, which is vital in the context of the labor shortage, and to start building the foundation to take advantage of it.
Yeah, those are really good points. And you're talking about decision making, and if we think about the value of an architect, or the value of a contractor, or the value of whoever it is, right, wherever they are in the realm of the construction and real estate industry, that's what clients are paying you for,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
If the clients had the knowledge and could make the decisions on their own, then they wouldn't need you. And so why not use these tools, as you said, as augmentation, and help make better, faster decisions? That's bringing more. And the way that I'm looking at it is bringing more value to your clients, if you look at it from that point of view.
They're paying us for that decision making, for that knowledge, our insights. But really, at the end of the day, I think what they're also paying us for is the outcomes.
True.
And that's where we fall short sometimes, right? Like, I don't think we need to go into it too much, right? But like, it's every day that you see a project's over budget, behind schedule. What's super interesting to me now is starting to see that it's people outside of the construction and real estate industries that are also talking about that, right? Like, you'll see a Wall Street Journal or New York Times article about how mega projects fail to meet construction and schedule, right? Construction budget and schedule. And so I think it's also really important to think about those outcomes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you were talking about data and insights earlier as well. And so if I have the data, right, if I have real time data that's showing me, my Gantt chart or whatever is sliding, that helps me in those realms, right? If I have the data, I have the insights, and now I'm making decisions based on that. Gives me maybe a fighting chance to stick with budget and schedule, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I think from our perspective, we're really seeing those digital workflows and those data insights drive value, tackling people problems, I think in two major ways, right? So, sort of thinking about this problem like ahead of our call, Jeff. Two of the most powerful ways I've seen companies really move forward. One is feeding the field with accurate digital information so that very quickly they're building the right thing. They're building the right thing the first time, so reducing rework, and they're building it more efficiently, right? Which means that we're reducing the burden on our people and potentially even reducing the number of people we need on those job sites. Right. And so BIM 100% is the foundation of that. And I love some of the advancements that we've seen, right? Like the Dusty Robotics of the world that are taking good BIM information and bringing that to the field in digital ways. And so, that's something that we've really been thinking about. How through digital workflows do you problem solve ahead of time? How do you get from design to something that's actually constructible? And how do you get that information into the hands of the field quickly and efficiently? The other thing we've been seeing, which actually led to like an investment in VIATechnik creating our own tool, is how do you scale knowledge across people, right? How do you scale knowledge from me to you? How do I scale knowledge from project to project? How do I scale knowledge from an individual or a team up to the enterprise? And to some extent, like even across those like boundaries of time. I've learned something yesterday. In 2 years, I'm going to encounter that. Construction definitely is an industry that like makes the same mistake twice. And so we launched a platform called Precogs, which is our knowledge digitization tool. It's aimed at giving construction companies good insights, sort of taking what people are learning on projects and getting it out across the organization. And that's also helping drive better outcomes.
Yeah, and that's critical, right? As we look at, still many firms, again, wherever they are in the AEC or our world, many of these firms are run by, let's see, say a generation that's aging out, and then the younger generations are coming in very quickly, and my generation's sort of stuck in the middle. So the younger generations are coming on quickly and moving up into these leadership roles, and will continue to. And there's got to be knowledge transfer, right? There's got to be the institutional knowledge and project knowledge and everything that you talked about. And I agree with you. I think that's going to be a critical need, probably for at least the next 5 to 7 years, I would think.
Absolutely. I had looked up a stat that shared 41% of today's construction workforce will retire in the next 7 to 8 years. So that's like a crazy amount when we probably need more people already. And I don't think we have a new 40% coming in that
Right.
7 to 8 years, right? And so that's going to just compound the need to transfer knowledge. And I think companies really need to start thinking like, all right, our people are our greatest asset. Our people are our competitive advantage. Well, how do you make sure that your competitive advantage doesn't like walk out the door, right, when that person retires? We had a client that said something like, one of their seasoned superintendents, right? But one of their A players was retiring, and they paid him for an extra 6 months to write down everything he knew. Right? Because they knew that once he retired, there were like exponential amounts of knowledge that were leaving their company, right? And so I love that company took the initiative to do that, but there has to be a better way. And that was really like the impetus for us to build this platform that just allows organizations to like scale that knowledge. And I think there's like another knowledge problem too that's probably less often talked about. It takes a really long time to learn in the construction industry, right? Like when I started my career, I started my career as a general contractor, project management, right? Like typical career path, project engineer, move up to project manager. My first job's like 1.5 years. My second construction project's like 2.5 years, right? To go through 4 to 5 years of your job, of your career in construction, and maybe only be exposed to 2 projects, like is a very normal thing, which means it takes a very long time to learn, which also means there's incredible benefit if it's not just like my 10 to 20 projects that I've been working on that's like feeding my actions in the field and feeding my actions as a project manager, but like those collective insights. And so I think that's like another way people should start sort of thinking differently about how to tackle the people problem.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. As you were saying it, I was thinking about projects that I was involved with in my past life, and it's like, there was one that I remember that had been in the office when I started there out of school, been in the office for 2, 3, 4 years, and I know that it didn't finish completion until maybe just about 7 years ago. And I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but that means that spanned probably 25 years.
Yeah. I gave you the perspective from like the construction side, but then look at that same example on the design side.
Yep.
And, maybe design cycles that same length, but then it's years until it's built, right? So, and that designer may or may not have gotten any knowledge from that construction project to bring with them to the next construction project, right? So we're like hammering on them because they're not giving us designs that are constructible, but like, have we set up a process? Have we given technology enablers that, allow us to do that? And so, when we work with our companies, I'm like, hey, we need a different mindset. We need to be creative. We need to be innovative about how we tackle the people problem. Because going back to what I said before, recruiting, bringing in the next generation of talent is super important, but that's the baseline. And now how do we like take it further? I think we owe it to the built environment, back to those outcomes. pretty unacceptable, right? To give our owners late and over budget projects. And so I believe that the opportunity exists within the people in our industry. And now it's going to be about like innovative and technology enablers.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. This is one of those conversations that could go on a long time, and I would
I'm
love
sure.
for it to go on a long time. But this is Shadow Shorts. So here's what I'd say. You're watching this, you're listening to this either live or in some time shifted manner, and you're saying, "Hey, this is a great conversation. I wanted to go longer as well. I want to know more about it." Well, there is an opportunity for you that's coming up in October in Atlanta, October 24th to 26th. It's the seventh annual Shadow Summit, and we're going to take topics like this. We're going to take topics like innovation, which is a big, broad word. We're going to talk about machine learning and AI. We're going to talk about uh, um, industrialized construction and many more topics revolving around technology and innovation for the built environment. So think about joining us for Shadow Summit in October. Shadowsummit.com is a website for that. It is a purposefully small gathering, 200 tickets maximum. So get your ticket now. A lot of those are already spoken for. There's a button at the top of that page so that you can apply to attend. So shadowsummit.com is the place to go for that. If you want to know more about what Danielle is talking about, and specifically their pre-COG program, the URL is in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen right now. It's viatechnik.com/precog. And think Minority Report, I guess. But go to viatechnik.com/precog and see what VIATechnik is doing in terms of the people and the technology. Super interesting work going on there. And I guess I should also thank our sponsors for Shadow Summit. And there's room for more if you'd like to sponsor Shadow Summit. But thanks go out right now to Schneider Electric and NIBS, the National Institute for Building Sciences, both sponsors of Shadow Summit this year. So if you want to know more about sponsoring, just reach out to me on LinkedIn. I can tell you more about that. And I'd invite you also to reach out to Danielle on LinkedIn, connect with her, and find out more about what's going on at VIATechnik and the work that they do there with their clients. Danielle, thank you so much for this conversation. It's been great, and we could just keep going on forever, but it's Shadow Short, so we need to end it.
Well, this was fun. Yeah, this was fun. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for being here. And for everybody else out there, we'll be back again tomorrow with another Shadow Short. So have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow at noon Eastern.